I go on vacation for 1 week, and of course, Lilith chooses that week to reveal two new commanders, Matthias and Afonso. And today, we're going to talk about whether you should invest in them or skip them. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. If you're new to the channel, my name's Shappy. I'm a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms content creator. Today, we are talking about the two new commanders that are coming to Rise of Kingdoms. They were supposed to be both leadership, but clearly they are not. And that is Matthias and Afonso, and let's jump into it. If you guys are new to the channel, I do all sorts of videos like this, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. Who is Matthias, right? Matthias is a new commander. He's a leadership, garrison, and attack commander. And a lot of people were really hoping that we would get a new either replacement or partner for Heraclius to make leadership more effective, right? The hopes that everyone told me was, hey, I really want a leadership pair for Philip, which makes sense. And I want another garrison pair to work with Heraclius so that we can have a stronger garrison, because candidly right now, garrisons are getting obliterated by Shapur and by Attila Subutai, so they could use some help. So let's jump into Matthias and see if he is that commander everyone's been hoping for or not. So let's start with the skills. AoE, we love it. He deals direct damage to up to 5 nearby enemy troops, damage factor of 2400. And every additional target reduces the damage dealt to the target by 15%. However, if this commander is one of your city's garrison commanders, your garrison takes 10% less damage for the next 3 seconds. City. That's a great AoE skill. I love it. I'm also expecting that this can be a circular AoE, which could be really nice. But city garrison, huh? Making me nervous, Lilith. Making me nervous. Okay, so the Black Army. This commander's troop gains 15% attack, 15% defense, and 10% health. Okay. And if their troop contains at least 3 different unit types, it deals 10% more counterattack damage. Yes. City garrisons and garrisons generally need counterattack damage. That is what makes them really painful to swarm, so this is great. Your stats are kind of low. 15% attack, 15% defense, and 10% health. That's not very much, which is a little underwhelming. I don't know. Okay. What about this third skill? If this commander is a garrison commander, whenever the garrison reaches 70% rage, it takes 25% less skill damage. Love that. If they're garrisoning your city, the garrison also gains a damage-absorbing mighty shield for 4 seconds. Damage factor of 800. Cooldown of 5 seconds. Another city skill? I mean, that first bit is great, but that mighty shield would be nice. Okay, what about this fourth one? If this commander is one of your city's garrison commanders, your garrison deals 5 more damage. I'm sorry, this is a city-specific skill? Great. Whenever your garrison's hit with a basic attack, it has a 15% chance to cast the Let Others Make War skill, cooldown of 15 seconds. That's that first AoE skill. So you have a chance to cast that again. That's awesome, especially if you're getting swarmed. This is going to make your city super swarm-proof, because if you're casting that circular AoE skill, and I think it's circular, if you're casting that AoE skill a ton, that's going to be really, really nice. The only concern I have is that cooldown of 15 seconds. It means you're not going to be spamming that skill, because 15 seconds is a long time, especially if you're getting swarmed. That's a terrible cooldown. See if this expertise can save him. If your commander is one of your city's garrison commanders, really? This is where they gave the expertise? Okay. Your garrison deals 10% more damage instead of 5%. Whenever your garrison's hit with a basic attack, it has a 20% chance, and they've cut the cooldown to 10 seconds. So let's talk about him. I think Matthias is a skip. I don't think he's what anyone was hoping for Heraclius. I think he's going to be a good city garrison commander because I like his AoE. He'll replace Theo, but most players should not be investing in a city garrison at this point. Just don't get your city hit. Like it's pretty straightforward. Also, I'm just going to be that guy. If I'm investing in a garrison commander, it's not going to be a city specific garrison commander. Like I would probably do YSS Hera or any of those others. I don't think that Matthias has a place. Maybe I'd do Gorgo Hera if I am infantry main. I don't think this guy is going to be invested in. So Matthias, probably a skip. If you did want to invest in him, you could probably throw him with Hera and do just fine. Or I would say throw him with YSS. If you're really feeling spicy, you could probably throw him with someone like Xeno, because Xeno Theo has great synergy. This guy has a lot of that same synergy. I could see that as well. I'm not using him, though. I don't think he's worth investing. For my gold heads, I have other places. What about Afonso? Is he worth investing in? That's the big question of this video. Some of you probably also already have some preconceived notions, but let's talk about him. He's engineering. He is the third engineering commander that we have gotten within the last 3 months, which is crazy to me. But is he worth investing in? That's going to be the question. Can he topple Cordoba and Gajamata? My bet is no, because they're so good and the last Siege release was so meh. But we'll see. He's got engineering, versatility, and support. That could be pretty good. That support might be a nice talent tree. Realistically, though, I really would like skill damage on a skill damage Siege commander. So we'll go through that, and we'll talk about some of the potential pairings for him. But it is surprising that he's engineering and not leadership. That's unusual. Wow, what a name of a first skill. Okay, rage requirement of 1,000. If this commander's troop is not within melee range of its current target, it deals ranged direct damage to up to 3 enemy troops near the target. Damage factor of 800, and every additional target reduces the damage, and it reduces their damage dealt. This is an AoE siege commander with a debuff. Wow. That's awesome. And then if this commander is within melee range of its current target, it deals ranged direct damage to up to 3 enemy troops near the target, and it deals a higher damage factor, which makes sense. That's not bad at all. Okay. You've got me listening. I'm listening, Afonso. This commander's siege units gain 20% march speed, 25% health, and 10% attack. That's a good spread. I would love some defense, but we can figure out a pairing that's going to bring some defense and some attack. I like that spread. Okay. That march speed is nice. It's going to be good for roaching away if people are using siege. The only bummer is he needs to have that 1,000 rage to do anything. That's hard to get sometimes. Whenever this commander's troop deals ranged skill damage while in range mode, it takes 5% less damage for the next 10 seconds. And this can stack up to 4 times. Wow. So that means you can take up to 20% less damage for the next 10 seconds. And I wonder, we'll have to test this out. I wonder if that 10 seconds also stacks. So if it's every time it hits another 5, it gives me another duration of time. That would be really cool. That would be a big deal if it did that. That's a big deal. Okay. So far, he's pretty good. Next one. Whenever this commander's troop launches a ranged basic attack, there's a 30% chance that if it is not in melee range of the target, it deals extra range direct damage. That's huge. That's instant proc damage on a ranged commander. And it reduces their march speed by 10% for 2 seconds. That's huge. That's really, really good for a ranged commander because you want instant proc damage, because half the time you're not going to be able to pop off a skill unless you get a really good position. But you will have someone who runs in, tries to trigger their skill, cheeseburgers, and then runs away. This instant proc damage is going to be nice, and they can't roach away as fast. I like that. And if they are in melee range of the target, it deals extra range direct damage and increases the target damage received. To be honest, you shouldn't be in melee range with a siege commander. Just don't. Okay, Lion of the Sea. Whenever this commander's troop launches a ranged basic attack, there's now a 50% chance that you're going to deal that ranged direct damage, and you'll reduce the march speed by 15% instead of 10. That's a good expertise, dude. I am thinking that the commander to max here is definitely going to be Afonso of the two, and that's not saying much, but of the two, Afonso's the one that I'd go for. Now, the big question is, who the heck do you put this guy with? And is it going to be better than Cordoba and Gajamana, which I don't really know. So let's jump in game and let's check it out. Okay, we are in game and we have Afonso's skills up on the top right. Now, we have to start with the commanders that we think are actually going to be the ones worth pairing him with. And we would be remiss if we didn't start with Gonzalo de Cordoba, who is obviously one of the best commanders for Siege in the game. So let's hop into it and actually take a look. Well, he does smite damage, which immediately tells me maybe not a good pair there. But he does have attack, and he deals more ranged smite damage. Again, smite damage is not the same as skill damage. He does get defense, which we like, and he has this vigilant effect, which is going to be the big thing that makes him special. But I'm thinking all of his skills are not going to play into Afonso. I know there's some people who are going to say, like, hey, I think this is it. I really don't. I don't think that this is the pairing. Let's check Gajamana while we're here. Ranged normal damage and ranged smite damage again. March speed and health. We have health and march speed already covered. Some attack. I don't think this is the pair either. Okay, so let's go through some of the commanders that we know already have skill damage bonuses and who are going to potentially also help this guy out a lot. What we need is we need to get through that skill cycle fast. That's going to be the big thing. So what can we do here? We have Margaret, who again has a bonus to normal damage dealt, which isn't bad, but it's not great either. And this is extra range direct damage, which isn't bad. We like that range direct damage. That's not bad at all. Okay, we have some siege unit attack. That's 20%. You got march speed, and then you got range normal damage again. Again, range normal damage is not where we're really investing here. Here we go. Now we got range skill damage of 20. And it has a chance to reduce march speed by 30%. That's not a bad debuff there. And you deal a flat 5% more damage, and it has a 10% chance to debuff by 50% defense. That's not bad. That gives you double debuffs. I'm thinking Margaret could work. And you have a healing factor, which you always want when you have a ranged march. So that's not bad. I really like Babur. I like Babur. He just has flat skill damage of 2,400. It's a glass cannon, which you really want when you're talking about having that siege march. You get a nice flat 15% attack bonus, 15% defense bonus, which you need because you have that health coverage already. You have that 25% health. So what you really want is more attack and more defense. And if we also take a look at some of the siege gear that we have, the siege gear is really going to give you more attack and health, just based on what I have right now. So just keep that in mind. We really want defense and we want attack when we're talking about these pairings. And you get range normal damage bonus. Again, not crazy about that buff. While in range mode, this commander takes 10% less normal damage, takes 10% less range normal damage, and deals 10% more counterattack damage. Counterattack damage is good. That's something we want with this guy, especially if he's got an AoE, because I expect that AoE might trigger some counterattack damage, which you don't want. Whenever you launch a ranged basic attack, it has a 10% chance to deal extra direct damage. So that gives you more instant proc. Then you got some health here. You got 30% health, 40% defense, and a flat damage bonus of 5%. That could work really well. This right here is why I like this pairing. His expertise skill gives you that 10% attack, but more importantly, whenever you use an active skill, you gain an extra 50 rage per second, which means you're going to be triggering that skill faster. Again, that skill damage is going to be the biggest obstacle to your success, and so that's why we want to make sure that we have that coverage. Okay, but what about some of these other commanders that have come out recently? We have John Hunyadi and we have Stephen III, both of which were relatively skippable ranged commanders, and I don't know that anyone's maxed them, but let's check out John Hunyadi because he was the best of the two that were released, and maybe he's got potential here. So he deals range direct damage to a target troop of 900, which is pretty low, but for the next 3 seconds, this commander's troop deals 10% more range skill damage, and that's 10% going up to 20% when you actually invest. That's huge. The problem with John Hunyadi is he also has support tree. I would much prefer to have that skill tree because, again, we're using skill damage. So Steven is more appealing on that, but I really like that skill. What about this? This commander's troop gains 10% attack up to 30%. And while their troop is in ranged mode, it gains rage faster. John Hunyadi is another good pairing for Afonso. Immediately, this is a great synergy. Whenever this commander's troop uses an active skill, has a 10% going up to 20% chance to deal an extra 300 damage factor, which we love, and chance to trigger is increased if the target is not in melee range. Most of the time, it's not going to be. And this commander's troop deals 40% more damage to units with less than 50% remaining. That's amazing. And then this commander's troop uses an active skill. It's a 40% chance to deal direct damage and gain 30 rage. Hunyadi is immediately probably my top pick. I would say Hunyadi, Babur are the two best pairs for this commander, just based on my initial impression. But let's look at Stephen. So the current target of this commander's troop takes range direct damage of 400 to 800. So that's going to be 800. And then if inflicted with the inflicted with the exposed effect for 2 seconds. Whenever this commander's troop launches a ranged basic attack against an exposed troop, it mighty heals itself. So we like that healing factor. That's going to be nice when we talk about lasting power in the field with Siege. Then you have Siege unit defense bonus. That's not bad. You got a little march speed there. Then we get this, which gives you range counterattack damage reduction. That's going to be nice for this commander because you want to be sure that you're lasting and not taking a lot of counterattack, which is going to be important if you're dealing AoE damage. When this commander launches a ranged basic attack, it has a 10% chance to gain a bonus to ranged normal damage dealt. Oh, if only it was skill damage. Okay, whenever this commander's troop launches a ranged basic attack, it has a 40% chance to gain attack and lose defense. This can stack up to 5 times and duration resets if it gets another stack. I don't like that skill. You also don't have a lot of defense coverage from any of these commanders. You get some with Steven there, which is not bad, but I don't like that skill. Expertise, you deal 10% more range skill damage. Perfect. And whenever you deal range skill damage, it has a 20% chance to deal range direct damage to up to 3 enemy troops near the target. So you get another AoE. This is great. I'm thinking Steven is probably the best pair. If you guys have enjoyed this video, do hit the subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner. Hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. Sorry for the delay on getting this out. I was traveling, but I appreciate you all. You guys are the best. Chappy out.